Good evening. Welcome to the August 22nd, 2023 meeting of the Hatfield Select Board. I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting, call it to order, and as usual, I'm going to open by reading our public participation policy. The Hatfield Select Board welcomes everyone to its meetings and all other public meetings of the town of Hatfield. All regular and special meetings of the boards and committees of the town of Hatfield shall be open to the public and shall conform to the open meeting law. Executive sessions are closed to the public and will be held only as prescribed by the statutes of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It is important to recognize that the open meeting law affords the opportunity to listen to the proceedings but not necessarily participate. During meetings of the Select Board, an attempt will be made to find a balance between hearing from members of the community and conducting the required business of the Hatfield Select Board. So for announcements, I personally have two quick things. One is just to announce that there'll be a health and wellness fair presented by the Hatfield Senior Center, which will take place Monday, September 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Here in the town hall. You would enter through the Council on Aging entrance back in the back of the building. It's free admission. There's a free continental breakfast, blood pressure and health screenings, signups for the flu clinic. There'll be healthcare professionals available, behavioral and mental health services available, and a variety of vendors, raffles, and giveaways. So that sounds like a nice day. And, thank you very much to the Hatfield Council on Aging for putting that together. It also looks like there's going to be hot dogs and chips provided by the Hampshire County Sheriff's Triad, which is a great program. And then one other thing, we just wanted to announce and acknowledge that there's been some restoration work going on in the West Street Cemetery of the stones. I did see some pictures of that restoration. And that work was done personally by Joe LaValle, which is just absolutely tremendous. So Joe, thank you very much. Such an important thing to preserve, and it just looks a lot better. And I can only imagine the work it took because the before and after pictures are pretty dramatic. So really just a heartfelt thank you to Joe and the cemetery commissioners, because I'm sure that they're behind that work as well. So just want to recognize and acknowledge and thank that. Anything else?
Yes, I attended a Department of Transportation meeting last week, and there's going to be a major bridge restoration project from here to Bernardston. All these bridges are going to be targeted to, each one has different things they want to do, either do the fix them up, paint them, and that kind of stuff.
Is this Route 91 bridges?
So, and some are over 91. And the way it's going to work is anything that has a speed of over 50 miles an hour, that work might be done at night. And anything that's less than 50, that work will be done during the day. And right now they're going to give everybody at least a 2-week notice before they commence on work. And one thing they were working on was the traffic light issue. When they do one lane and they have traffic lights, in case there's emergency vehicles coming in, they want to come up with a way so that the lights would trigger to allow the emergency vehicles over. So there'll be more information down the road. The completion date is targeted for October 2025. So I'm not sure what they're going to start this year or whether this will be a big production in the spring. So Hatfield will get some information, and the bridge, I believe I was told, was Chestnut Street Bridge, will be the bridge in our town that, and I think the other bridge, there is other design on for some other,
Elm Street Bridge.
yeah. So,
well, I think
this was all part of the infrastructure, I think, money that came down and for bridge work and road work and all that. So I'm just giving the town a heads up that down the road, we'll let you know that the Chestnut Street Bridge will have some work done. So that's it. Well, they told me at the meeting they had listed Chestnut Street, and Elm Street was like in design for something else.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So we'll see if that is what they were telling me. That's all.
Okay. Well, I mean, we know that our bridges in Massachusetts need some work. So that's welcome news. I hope it's not just minor stuff. I hope.
Oh no, I think they're digging up the roadway and they're checking it, the structure, and doing works on the deck and then asphalting the bridge and that kind of stuff. I think right now they were in discussion on what type of materials could be used and that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
just
Great.
wanted to give you a heads up on that. That's all.
Thanks for attending that on our behalf. Appreciate it. Anything? Nothing. No. I mean, our next meeting, I think, will be after school starts. So just a reminder to people
September
that
5th.
within a couple weeks, there'll be kids walking to school and crossing crosswalks and watch out for school buses and all of that. So just keep your eyes out and good luck to all the students going back to school here in Hatfield in a couple weeks. They probably don't want that reminder. But, so is anyone here for public forum? You are? Would you come up to these seats so the microphone can pick you up?
So this is the first stop I was told to make in my process of trying to figure out a couple things. My name is Brant Miller. I live at 8 Cronin Hill Road. Recently, within the past few months, we've been having a lot of excess speeding on our road. Back on July 26th, we had a cat that got hit and run. We haven't found anyone that come forward in regards to that cat being hit and ran. We have a lot of animals on that street. People coming from Depot, coming from Straits. It is just a speeding fest. It's not 25 miles an hour they're going. They're going excessively over that, 40, if not higher. I've been keeping track. I live at the beginning of the road on 8, so I do get to see people coming off of Depot, coming to that road. And recently we've had Carl's red trucks, JP Morgan red trucks, Dave Wickles orange trucks, and ServiceNet white vehicles flying down our streets, just to name some of the commercial vehicles that are going fast, not including residents as well. There's a lot of animals that we all have on that street. Ourselves alone, we have 4 cats, 2 which go outside, and 2 dogs that go outside, of course, supervised. There's other neighbors across the street, the Van Giels, that have a bunch of animals and the horses on the street, as well as many more folks that have dogs and cats on our street. It's very concerning to me. I also have an 11-year-old son. I keep super eyes on him all the time, but all it takes is a mistake. Again, I was told to start here in regards to this, so I'm coming to you folks to try and find out what I can do. One question I do have is there a way to get another one of those signs like on Depot Road for the speed limit so we can at least monitor it? And something else that was also brought to my attention too was the PD was going to put some watches over there. There had been 6 pullovers since I made that phone call, and that was within the first 2 weeks of me making that call after that cat had been hit. So I just am noticing there's a big trend. I hear it first in the morning. My bedroom is right by the road. I hear cars going flying up it all the time. So I'm just trying to figure out what we can do to try and work on that.
Well, first of all, welcome, and I'm your neighbor on Straits. So we have sort of the same,
Yeah.
we experience the same thing. It's in the summer weather, definitely the road is a little faster. And people are traveling by. We see a lot of people, we get the big trucks that are lost too from CNS sometimes. So I mean, I think, well, it's great that the police already started doing a little bit of, traffic stops there. That sign typically moves around town. No?
It does.
There's more
from-
than one, I think. Because there's
There are
one,
2.
there's one
I
right now, I
believe
think,
there's
on
2.
Prospect Street,
Okay.
or it was.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe we could see if the chief could get the signboard
Well,
there.
there were 2, but one was damaged, right, Karen? Yeah, the one on Elm that was on Elm
Oh, yeah.
Street
Oh,
was
yeah.
damaged. That's right.
Okay. Well, so maybe we could see if the chief could get a
Mm.
signboard on that stretch of road for a little while. And
Mm.
certainly, just remind residents who might travel that road and all the roads to just be mindful of the speed limits. It is a residential town. There are a lot of kids out playing and animals around. So, I'm glad he's at least run some traffic stops out there. But
Mhm.
maybe we could see if the
Mhm.
signboard could be there for a little while.
That'd be wonderful. I'd greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, so we do have quite a full agenda, so let's get right into it. So our first order of posted business is a public hearing, but that was posted for 5:45, right?
Right.
So we'll skip around a little bit just so that we don't start that.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for July
Oh.
11th, 2023.
Mhm, That's right.
Ed's keeping me in line. Actually, you know what? I just noticed there's a misspelling. The woman from Comcast, it's Eileen, Eileen, and her last name is Leahy, Leahy.
That's
Yep.
right, yeah.
So we should probably just correct that. But other than that correction, I'll second that. So motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
And I think we should pass on the executive session because that's,
Oh, because that's in litigation.
Mhm. So we'll just hold on those. Okay. Thank you, Ed. I did skip right over that. Topic 2, which is the Route 5 water and sewer project discussion, I am 100% sure is going to take longer than 4 minutes. Same with probably all of Chief Flaherty's. Brendan, are you here to do the DPW report?
Yes,
Okay, do you think we can do that in a couple minutes?
yeah, I don't have anything for tonight.
Okay,
Whatever affiliated you guys.
okay. This is I have to get there, sorry. Topic 4. Oh, is this the,
The DPW director has recommended to put forward this wage rate increase. He said that.
Yep.
Advising he's talked with each of you.
I'm fine with it. It's just in here, right? Do you guys have any, you want to have any discussion or? Nothing?
oh, you got the rescind a license transfer. We can probably do that.
Well,
Unless you want to skip around, I don't know.
well, I mean, we were just skipping because then this was all we had for DPW report, the rate change, salary adjustment for Brendan.
I have issues with that.
You do have issues with that, so
Yes.
that's going to take longer. Okay. Okay, we can rescind.
Firefighters Association has a request for a special one-day liquor license. That
one's-
shouldn't take very
No, that
long.
shouldn't take long. Carrie, do you want to speak to it quickly? Or, I mean, we do it every year, but.
I submitted the. For those who don't know me, I'm Carrie Flaherty from the Fire Association and president of the association. So we're doing our annual fundraiser for the Hatfield Bonfire Music Festival. It's October 14th. It's at the Hatfield Lions Club Pavilion, like usual. So things will be kind of restricted from use from Thursday evening until Sunday when we can get everything picked up, which is common. We set up fencing Thursday night and everything inside of it stays secured for the couple of days. So we try to keep everything as protected as possible. And so we applied for our one-day liquor license, which you all have been greatly appreciative of approving each year. Did Chief DeKoschak give you his letter?
He did.
Okay, so Chief DeKoschak issued the letter saying that we will have 3 detail officers, including USA Security, that will be there with 7 officers. Just for the general public to know, in case of that, we did have some issues last year with some complaints that were put in that they had no female security officers. So that's been changed for this year. There'll be 3 female security officers and 3 males plus a supervisor. So they'll have 7 of them, 3 officers from Hatfield. So we'll have plenty of security. And then I have paperwork in currently through, I say Amherst Insurance. I don't know if there's a different name for them, but that's who we use.
It's
So it's Amherst Insurance. So that we're in the process of that being finalized. We just submitted the final parts of the paperwork today, actually. So she's working on getting us a final insurance policy, which once I have that, I'll give that to Karen so that you all can see it.
It does
And
say you have the coverage, but that's just because you're working on it.
I
So
checked it.
we could vote it pending the,
Correct.
coverage.
So it's just we haven't gotten it in hand yet, which
Okay.
we did the same thing last year that you all approved it, knowing that it would come, and thankfully we got it a couple days ahead. So I started early this year, hoping to get it just off of our plate and know that we have it and not worry about it.
No, I mean, I appreciate that you guys do this. It's always a great event. I know that you know what you're doing. I don't have any problems with it at all.
The only thing that's changed this year, just so everybody's aware, Fishtails is actually our liquor license for the bartenders and the bar being run, not the club or the young men's club that people probably recall it as. So this year, Carrie, I always say her
Keller.
last name wrong, but from Fishtails, along with, she has 11 bartenders that are helping us out, and they're going to actually be running and facilitating our bars and also doing all of our ordering for us. So the liquor license is under them this year, which is also in the paperwork, and Amherst Insurance is aware of that.
Okay, but you still pull the one-day license?
Yeah, we still have to pull the one day with you, but I just wanted you to know that
Okay,
the bartenders and the bar itself is being run differently this year
Okay.
than we've had.
but everything else is the same, 4 to 10. I saw the lineup. It looks like a great event.
It should be a great event.
I can't be
This
there.
is an all alcohol license, Gary?
It is an all out. It's liquor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all alcohol. It was
all
last
alcohol.
year too.
Which is wine and malt in the past.
No,
Okay,
no,
that's why
last
I
year it was
asked. Okay.
I mean, I would say we would vote this just pending the insurance coming from Amherst Insurance.
Which I hope to have in a couple weeks. Before your next meeting, it should be here, before your September meeting, but
Okay.
it could be here sooner.
Ed, do you have any questions?
No, it's a great thing for the town. It's a great for the organization, and I thank you for doing it every year.
Yes.
Yeah, I have fun
Anything?
going there too.
What's that?
I have fun going there too.
I do too, and I can't go this year and I'm not happy. I have a very joyous family occasion, but I can't be there. Okay, so we can vote it pending insurance, proof of insurance.
Yeah, and I'll have that for you.
And that way everything can be drawn up. Well, we're signing things now though, right? So, okay. So
I'm not
just
taking
looking-
anything with me today. Karen can hold on to whatever you all sign,
Okay.
and I'll just get her the insurance, and then she can issue me my
Okay.
permit later. I think that's what we've done in the past.
Okay.
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve the Hatfield one-day liquor license for, what's the date here, October
October
14th, from 4 till 10, full alcohol beverage license, it says, and pending their insurance.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? All those
No.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Just
Thanks.
overtime, sorry.
Thanks for doing that. Bob, do you want to just wait and take up the bonfire thing when you're doing your stuff? We are now 2 minutes late for our poll hearing. Did you want to come up? Who's here for the poll hearing? Yeah, thought so. And Bernie, if you both want to come up, if you're going to speak, feel free to come up to the microphone. Did you want to come up? Yeah.
Good evening, Don Bonner for Verizon. I assume you have the maps?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just went out to the site, took measurements. Everything looks pretty much what you see. The only measurement missing that is not on your map is pole 12, which is where this line is going to continue from, is 174 feet away. It's right at the top northwest corner of 96 Straits, already there. These two new poles are being requested to extend the service up. Apparently there is a new customer on Straits. I'm guessing from what I saw in the field, it's 140 North Hatfield. They must be doing something in the empty field up there. I don't know what. But they want the poles to extend up to them. And that is the purpose of these two poles.
I don't have any questions. I'm obviously very familiar with this. This is on my street.
Oh.
No questions?
No, I read it. I get it.
Anything, Ed? Do we have to do certain things to open this?
Well, the hearing was opened, right?
Did I open it right?
Reference the,
Oh, sorry. I need to open the hearing by referencing the date, time, and location and the purpose of the hearing. So It is at 5:45 PM. It's a public hearing on a petition from Verizon New England, Inc. and NStar Electric Company, doing business as Eversource, and it's for the placement of poles on Straits Road. So now we're officially opened. We took the public comments a little out of order. That's okay, Marlene?
Yeah, he's the representative for Verizon or.
Is anyone else
Eversource.
here for discussion on this poll hearing? No. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Nope.
Kind of surprised there aren't polls there already. I walk down there all the time. I've just never noticed that there's no polls. So, okay, so there's no public comments. So we will close the hearing and then take any action that the board decides to take. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve petition for Verizon job number 1A6L2CC
I think we have
on
to read
Straits
this.
Road, Hatfield,
I
Mass.
think you have to read this.
Well, you got to read the whole thing?
I think so, right, Marlene?
Yes, right, the motion that's
Grant
there.
Verizon New
Mhm.
England.
All right. Then I'll make a motion to approve Straits Road to place one jointly owned pole number T.14-E.14 on the west side of Straits Road at a point approximately 3,700 feet southeasterly from the center line of Depot Road, and on Straits Road to place one jointly owned pole number T.13/E.13 on the west side of Straits Road at a point 3,800 feet southeasterly from the center line of Depot Road. And the reason for this is the two poles to provide service for new customer on Straits Road and to provide for distribution of intelligent and telecommunications and a transmission of high and low voltage electric current.
Okay, so that's different than the motion that's on the
It
agenda.
is, but that's fine.
It's
That's
fine?
okay what he
Okay.
read. Yeah.
Because
Okay.
this one just mentions, I'll just add that it mentions permission to erect and maintain poles and their respective wires and cables to be placed thereon, together with anchors, guys, and other such sustaining and protecting fixtures, as said companies may deem necessary. So just to throw that in there.
I'll second it then.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, so it's on the back of this. Okay, Ed? There's two signatures needed there. Okay, so Route 5 Water and Sewer Project, discussion of project change order.
So we have not received that change order.
We have not
Select board has
received it,
not received it.
so we can't discuss it if we don't have it, right? Did you want to come up
Oh,
and
Michael is
speak a little
here.
bit about just sort of what's going on?
Absolutely. And I do have copies of the change order with me that I can hand off to you right now for whatever.
Yeah, the board should see
Yep.
those.
Absolutely. So the first item, as you mentioned, is the change order specific to the contract for the pump station. So this was essentially sent a little over a week ago. So you may have seen it in that form. There were some questions at that time. One of the primary questions was the time was noted as unchanged, but the contractor had then initialed it, left it open, completely open. So subsequently, we have conferred with the contractor in terms of what the realistic schedule is for this work in conjunction with the gravity sewer on West Street. And we've added a section on that first page that speaks to the contract completion date specific to this pump station. That is the only change to this change order document from what was sent the week before last. I know there were some questions on it in terms of the content, so I can just go over what those were. That particular change order encompasses the minor revisions to some of the connecting pipe and some of the actual site work related to the revised site plan that came out of all the easement discussions and push from one of the property owners to shift as much of the infrastructure off, further south, in keeping with the most recent town meeting vote. So this is the culmination of all those changes. And in addition, these structures, which are the concrete wet well and metering vault, were fabricated by United Concrete in the fall of 21. And the contractor at that time was anticipating proceeding with installation. That was when, leading into 22, had the issues with, the groundwater issues, and ended up having a separate change order to resolve those things. So that will be moving forward. But meanwhile, that manufacturer has been holding on to those structures that were made and were ready to go. There was some discussion at the beginning of this, it was over the winter, as to what would be better. Bring them up here. Certainly plenty of room to put it in the staging area by the wells. But the original intent with something this large is that the contractor would have it delivered the same day that they're ready to place it in the hole, because it requires a substantial crane to offload it and place it. So there would have been additional costs to redo that offloading, unloading, or loading back onto a trailer from a staging area, say, and then unloading back down at the actual construction site. And at the time, the thought was the construction was going to proceed more quickly than it has. So at the time, the storage, keeping it at the manufacturer's facility, was thought to be the less expensive option at the time. So that cost is in here.
Yeah, but why? We were ready for it to go in, right? But Keeler didn't come.
We weren't ready for it to go in because there were up until this last Springtown meeting, there were still ongoing discussions as to where exactly it was going to go.
Right, so that was in May.
Correct.
So right now, this design of the pump station is at the point where you have the easements and there can be, and everything's been worked out with everybody, as far as I know that both parties are unhappy down there, but
Yep.
but this is the final one.
Yes.
And I do understand that there's been design changes because of ongoing issues and legal aspects and all that.
Yep.
So,
But isn't it going back where it was originally designed to go?
No, it is originally as bid, both structures, essentially all of the infrastructure for that station was going on the restaurant property, just north of the property line. And then the only thing that was on the Ruthier property was the force main to connect to where it crosses over, will cross over the river. So essentially what we ended up with was kind of 50-50. The wet well is now on the restaurant property and the valve vault is on the Ruthier property, both straddling the line as tight as we can to minimize the impact on both property owners.
So I understand why that part of the project has been on hold, but what about the rest of it?
The rest of it, we've been having issues with the contractor getting, and them in turn, their excuse to me is that they haven't been able to line up their dewatering sub, which is really the key to that whole project. It is a specialty item. At this point, they have told me, as of yesterday, they are mobilizing this week, and they will be doing the actual installation of the dewatering system for the gravity sewer starting next week. So we should all see some activity this week and much more next week.
Well, I hope so, because we've been issued a few schedules and they failed to meet those schedules, and it's been disappointing for the board along with the residents and the whole town. So I'm hoping they're able to now follow the last schedule that was sent.
I agree. And what I would like to offer and suggest is I'm more than willing to come out again in 2 weeks and actually give you updates as this project gets going again. Just so there's no questions.
Has
or
there been
confusion.
communication with the residents?
There was, and we'll be giving them an updated one this week. Just
Mr. Longstreet says
None
no.
whatsoever.
pardon?
None whatsoever.
I think
There has
for the
not been
homes that were
any-
going to be impacted by the
Oh,
work
yeah,
on
there
the
were-
schedule.
Okay.
It's going to stretch out. So they're working essentially in 200-foot sections, starting from the south, essentially number 35 plus
yeah.
or minus. So depending on where you live.
But we're all affected because you got vehicles that are going way beyond the speed limit, going up that
Okay.
dirt road. You've got all that pile of dirty fill that's back
Okay.
there.
I think we should notify residents along the whole project
Yeah.
that things are
We can-
starting.
we
I
can-
mean, regardless if it's directly in front of their home, there's going to be an impact
We can certainly.
for them, and they have been patient through this. So everybody should be notified. And then certainly as work is going to be, right near them, they should be notified of that as well, with plenty of notice of that.
Yep. We can do that.
So there is a cost associated with this change order of over $61,000.
That was a balance of 40,000 in the contingency.
Just over 40,000 in the entire project contingency.
And Mike has indicated that there will be a need for additional funds.
For,
Two items. I looked ahead. The way these projects are typically bid is we look at and have estimated quantities for all the specific items, say for linear feet of sewer main, number of sewer laterals, pavement quantities. And those can fluctuate up and down on any project. Looking right at this moment in time, where we're at and where I think we're going to be, all of the actual construction quantities, I think are going to be fine. Whatever is remaining is what we should use. Where there's going to be a shortfall is two items, police details. We're essentially at the budget right now that was in the contract. And that would have typically come out of contingency, but we will quickly go through that. And then the other thing is additional engineering costs going forward for both kind of the monthly activities of construction phase services. And then typically we've provided a field resident pretty much full-time on the project. And so you can imagine that adds up pretty quickly. So those two items are the specific need for funds going forward.
I mean, those are known costs when you do a project like this. So why wasn't it part of the bid?
They're known, those are all estimated based on the time of construction. So because of all these things that have happened, we are well past the original calendar time that was anticipated for this project.
So could I just add some information here? So Mike, the supplemental funding, the information summary you provided at the time the town was reaching out to MassWorks in October, built into that 1.5 million is $180,000 for police details and 200,000 for engineering.
Yes.
And so you're saying you're going to now exceed that cost, those estimated costs?
The change order that was finally worked out for the gravity sewer portion, so the first contract, what ended up being more than what was estimated at the time we had reached out to MassWorks. So on those sheets, if you now looked at the actual amount for change order 1 compared to what we were thinking at the time, that essentially ate into what we were allocating for police and engineering.
I see what you're saying.
By how much? Do you have an idea?
I can give you more information in detail, but ballpark, like 350,000 for all that combined.
What?
Wow. Yep. So the question then, where do we get the money?
Yeah.
And just to give you a rough breakdown, because it adds up surprisingly fast, is 200,000 of that is police details. Anticipating that for at least half of the time, we're going to have 3 details, as they have some crews working at the pump station site and working on the gravity sewer. They'll end up with a police officer at each end and one in the middle, essentially creating one lane, shifting to the opposite side of the road.
Well, now you're going to start the gravity sewer at the southern end, right?
Southern end, yes.
So that's where the pump station is.
It is, but
Correct.
they're on opposite sides of the street.
But then it's going to continue, and you're not going to do the pump station till fall.
Correct.
So when you do it in the fall, where are the 2 lanes if the gravity's already been done up?
Because they'll have separate details for each work area. They'll still end up with one officer down at the pump station, and then one on either end of the gravity sewer section. And again, it's just, these are estimated quantities. It's a ballpark number, and the contractor only gets reimbursed for actual payments made for actual detail services. Hence my comment about, this is under a typical circumstances, this is exactly the kind of thing that you would reach back out to MassWorks. I don't know where things would stand, given that we've already gone back to them.
Oh, we can't reach out to MassWorks unless we have a definite number. And then we have to discuss if we want to go back to MassWorks too. I mean, that's another.
So what I can do is I will send more detail on those estimated costs direct to Marlene to circulate to the board, and I'm available for any discussions that are needed.
Because right now we got this change order, which is 60 something. So we only have 40 that's left in the contingency. So then we would have to discuss whether we wanted to move 21 from ARPA funding to make sure this change order is done, or some other source
The
of
change
funding?
order is coming
Clarify.
out of the current contingency,
Correct.
right?
The
Yeah.
40 plus that is remaining already accounts for the
Counts for
value
this
of that
change order.
So this is 62 on top of that 40?
We can't use the 40 for you're saying the contingency doesn't?
No,
The 40 is the
my
balance.
assessment of
Paying
the
61?
budget,
Right, right,
yes.
right.
The
Okay.
40,000 is the balance after paying the 61.
Oh, okay.
So then that would theoretically be applied to whatever is the next
Costs,
change
future
order.
costs.
I guess I have a question
Nothing's
about the
incurred yet.
engineering part of the overrun. Because, I mean, it seems like some of the problems on this, shouldn't the engineers have known we were going to run into some of these problems? And then the re-engineering, I mean, I'm asking, I'm serious, and I think residents have this question too. Like,
It's a legitimate question.
we've spent a lot of extra money on engineering. So we hired engineers so that
Mhm.
we would have all the answers for the project before we went out to bid. We clearly didn't,
Right.
so then it had to be re-engineered. But at some point, where does the engineering company,
Mhm.
CEI, bear some responsibility in having to do this extra work and not put that burden on residents?
Yeah.
That's my question to you.
Yep. Understood. The project like this, during the design, the biggest issue on the job, I would say, our two biggest issues were the soil conditions combined with the groundwater. And then the other was the pump station site issues and the contesting of the easements and the location of all the infrastructure. So on the soil conditions, we did do soil borings at intervals up the full stretch of West Street. And you only do them, hundreds of feet apart. And that's standard practice. And in this situation, it did not indicate what we actually found when they started to try to excavate and then dewater it. And that does happen from time to time because there's a limit to how much exploratory excavation or drilling that you can do to try to assess what's beneath the ground. And then sometimes you get surprised. So the contractor based their bid on the information we had provided based on the borings. And once they started to work, determined that there were changed conditions. And that's what prompted the whole, their claim is a change order. And I would argue it's something that we didn't miss. It was just, we did what we should have during the design, and it just happens sometimes. And then on the matter of the pump station site, I think what we experienced is just an inherent potential problem when property is taken by eminent domain. And we were at the mercy of trying to avoid, somewhat at the legal counsel's direction for trying to avoid or forestall the lawsuit that was filed against the town.
Right. As we know, the town is in litigation with one of the property owners, which has involved quite a bit of Mike's time.
Yeah, and that was,
Right, I
it's,
understand I do understand that part. It's a big pill to swallow,
I understand.
the overruns on this project,
I understand.
and they just keep coming, and it's frustrating.
Like I say, I can understand this change order with the stuff on a pump station. I'm just a little confused on all these other additional costs that we may incur down the road, but
And I am bringing that to your attention tonight, but not looking for any decision on that. at this
We
time.
wouldn't.
I think you legitimately need more information from me.
But I mean, in terms of even the police, is it, the project is, I mean, I understand the project is taking longer than we thought because
Way longer.
nothing's happening, but
No, but
it's
even-
also taking longer than you thought when things are happening because of
Yes.
the dewatering.
Yes, that is the issue. So during this time where nothing has been happening on site, there certainly haven't been police detail costs. There have been some minimal engineering costs, but it's been related to the easement stuff that we went through over
I mean,
the spring.
200,000 in police detail, you estimate?
It adds up. It's
I mean, that's like
It's-
two full-time, more than two full-timers working all year.
the billing rate is roughly from the Hatfield Police Department is roughly $80 an hour to a contractor.
How much?
Wow.
$80 an hour.
Go to the contractor. And the contractor gets a part of that, or how does that work?
It's a complete pass-through, so the contractor doesn't get any markup. So at that rate, 3 officers for a full week adds up really fast. And it's similar to our field rep, who is the resident observer who's out there. Hence, I had mentioned to Marlene, sometimes there may be somebody local that can fulfill those responsibilities, somebody in-house, I don't know. But those can be significant savings.
So let me get this right in my head, because I'm not the brightest light bulb around here. So they charge $80 to the contractor per officer. That money
Per hour,
comes
Per hour.
back.
per hour.
Comes $80 an hour. That money comes back to the town to pay the officer. How does that work? Now, from that $80, each
So it
hour
isn't
they,
necessarily one of Hatfield's officers. It could be anywhere. Sometimes
Correct.
it is some of our own officers.
but the officer's not getting $80 an hour, right? He's getting less.
Detail officers.
Whatever the detailed rate is, the officer's receiving
It's
that
done through a revolving fund.
fund. Right.
So the officer would get that full amount, the $80 per hour?
If that's what, yeah, I believe so.
Would know.
No.
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 No. So where
So
does,
where does all that money go?
Where does the other money go? Because it's,
Idea.
I thought private
Used
details
to
were
be
paid for through a revolving fund. It doesn't,
Well, it is, the contractor gets billed and the officer is paid
does the
um,
officer get paid
immediately, within the next
through
payroll period.
payroll.
Correct.
and then
Sometimes
the revolving fund
maybe waiting a little while to receive that money.
reimburses the town?
Correct. That is correct.
So why is the rate so high?
Well, I didn't realize it was, if that is the rate, I did not realize it
And
was
that's
that
not
high.
what people who perform the duty are paid?
I will check on that.
No.
But that's a number that's been given to you, Mike, $80 an hour?
Well, it was
Per officer.
75 in 21. And I'm sure it's
Yeah.
the same.
And I know the police chief in the past would come before the select board when he, was considering raising the detail rate. It's been a while, but I had no idea it was that high.
Well, but it sounds like it's not,
It's not that high.
because you get
Detail
details.
officers, yeah.
I remember it was 40 something an hour. So it's gone up
So that
considerably.
is the
then.
basis of the big numbers here. So I will get you that information, Marlene, so that you can chase it.
yeah, I'd like to get that information and follow this a little further.
I mean,
so
I
can-
want it,
I'm going to
I-
How does
follow up
this-
with
yes,
the
how does
police
this
chief.
work?
every
Yeah.
single dollar
Yeah, we're at
of
the point.
this
Yeah.
needs to be, including the engineering.
Yeah.
That needs to be as tight as possible.
So right now, this change order is the 62, and we would have,
And this is in the
40 left.
contingency.
It's coming from the current contingency. After this 61,000, there's a balance of 40,000.
okay, so we don't have to put any money into it
So
right
the
now.
40,000 and the contingency is still available for future. I think, Mike, you said future construction costs, maybe? The 40?
It's there.
Right.
I
But the
mean,
350,000 that you're anticipating is for police detail and
Yeah,
engineering.
I mean, it's an order of magnitude number. It's not 50,000, you know, in terms of these future costs. In looking ahead to construction, the balance remaining on all the line items for construction, pavement, sewer, all those little details, I believe are sufficient for what's actually going to happen. So there shouldn't be any change to the bottom line construction number.
All right. Well, so we need to, go ahead.
So why didn't we know about the storage until now? The storage fee, and is it gonna be more because it's taking longer now? Are we gonna have more of the storage fees?
Well, that,
I
yeah.
expect there'll be some minimal request that may be able to be covered through some other line items.
And that structure goes not down by where we have the litigation issue, it's further down the road.
No, these structures are where the easements are.
They are written.
That's exactly what the issue is.
So would that amount be less than us bringing them up here and having them moving them again?
Yeah.
Is that customary
To,
to start charge storage for something? I mean,
For
because
prolonged-
construction projects
They-
never go.
they didn't start the storage time, so to speak, until it was like the first of this year. So they've had it there since the fall of 21 for almost over a year. That they're saying, well, that's what we would normally have it in our yard for. It was when it was like, okay, we can't wait any longer.
Because the intent was to install it last
Last
week.
year.
And then we ran into the soil conditions and water table.
Ran into the easement issues on that particular
Yeah.
piece.
Okay. Well, I guess we need to get this needs to be approved before they'll
This change
Restart
orders
this.
for work
Avoid
that's,
any further excuses or delays, I'd say, yes.
Then, any more questions before I make a motion?
no.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there any reason why the contractor couldn't start moving some of that dirty fill that's back there while they're doing absolutely nothing on the project?
you're talking about the pile of sand. Yeah, Mike, I had
It's
reached out to
blowing
you
out of the
about that.
yard and-
Because when the wind blows, there's houses, the backs of the homes, people have gazebos and decks
I mean, we
behind
know
their
that
home.
dirty fill's gotta be moved
Yeah.
at some point, right?
Yeah, because that's not going in the hole,
Right.
you know. Okay, I will follow up on that.
And the other thing is the water table's higher this year than it's ever been.
I know.
Mm.
My sump pump is running constantly. So is this mitigation gonna work?
It should. What I know is when we were monitoring the groundwater levels, I want to say last in 22, because it was drier,
Mhm.
in the hopes that we would get some natural benefit.
Yep.
And it didn't really shift.
It didn't.
It didn't. So I don't know if what you're seeing is maybe,
I'm 3 feet down.
yeah, you're just seeing, there's so much at the surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
With nowhere to go.
I do want to point out for everyone that this change order does come with contract completion dates. And the contract completion dates will be December 31st, 2023 for subsurface work shall be completed, including a wet well structure, dry well structure, flow metering vault, and the interconnecting piping. Additionally, the river crossing shall be completed, and that's proposed to be done by December 31st, 2023. And then by June 30th, 2024, which is next June, all remaining contract work shall be completed, including startup and demonstration of successful operation ready to receive sewer flow from the new gravity sewer main being installed under the separate contract, which was phase 1 contract. So this change order does come with completion dates, and that's probably a good thing.
How about cleanup of the whole site, the work site? Should that be on there?
It's actually part of final completion.
Okay.
That they're cleaned up and gone.
And that's important, that cleanup part, making sure that all
Very important.
that stuff's gone.
Okay, well, I'll take a motion on the change order.
Well,
As much as it pains me, I'll make a motion to accept the change order 2 contract price for $61,712.96 as stated in the change order form.
Second, motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have 6:30, right? We have Tony Roselli.
Tony Roselli at 6:30.
So we only have 3 minutes. I don't know that there's,
Got the bonfire stuff.
we could do the bonfire quickly. Bob, quickly, you want to do the bonfire part of your agenda?
You have the letter in front of you. That's following Mass General Law for allowing the town to permit one ceremonial bonfire. It's pretty much the exact same letter that we've submitted every year. This is the 11th year of doing the bonfire. So there's really nothing changed, but the select board has to officially approve the one ceremonial bonfire permit per year.
Pretty straightforward.
I make a motion that we approve the bonfire for October 14th for the Hatfield Firefighters Association.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Probably the easiest thing we're going to do all night. Thanks. I'm sorry you got to stick around, but Tony did want to do this right at 6:30. Are you okay with that?
Thank you, Mike. Take care.
You what? No? I mean, do you guys want to, should we ask Tony to wait? Do you want to ask Tony to wait a couple minutes?
I'll ask him.
I don't see anybody yet. Oh, that's right.
If they're coming.
Well, then
yeah,
well, no, I'd rather, Bob wants to.
They're on the
Oh, yeah,
hallway.
Tony Roselli is on. Ooh,
They're in the hall? Oh, I would. You want to ask them to come in? Thank you, Bob.
yeah, the accountant is on and Tony Roselli.
Hello.
Hi. I saw you on
Hi.
TV last night.
We can all speak up. Whose computer is this? Because you don't want me to be touching anything.
It's just a monitor. It's just a monitor.
Hi, Carol.
How you doing?
Good, how are
So we
you?
have Tony Roselli and our accountant joining us
You having
remotely.
fun yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Blast.
Welcome, Finance Committee. Welcome, Tony and Richard.
I don't know, can Tony hear?
Tony, can you hear us?
No, he's not responding.
He's not responding. And Richard doesn't have a camera.
Tony's mic is on.
It is on, but he's not hearing us. Our mic isn't on. Our mic says. All right, Tony, can you hear us? Yes.
Ooh, there you
Okay,
are.
good. We were having a little technical difficulty at our end.
Okay, I'm here.
Nice, nice to see you. Richard, are you going to join us with a camera or no?
I can't figure out how to get the camera to work.
Okay. So we are joined, are you ready to go? Is everybody ready? 'Cause we've got lots of other stuff to get to. We're joined by our Finance Committee as well tonight, missing just one. Is Sean coming?
No, Sean's in.
Sean is not coming. So we have 4 members of our Finance Committee here tonight. So I guess we can just turn it over to you, Tony. We have the audit, the management letter.
Okay, you want me to begin?
Sure, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Marlene, for not making me drive 4 hours tonight. So it's worth a couple of technical difficulties. So yeah, this is the report for fiscal year 22. So it's about 13 months old. It is later than normal. There was some transition. Your accountants transitioned over, your treasurers transitioned over. So it did delay the process a little bit, but here we are, and I'll give a quick presentation, and please ask questions as you go. I have printouts on my end. I didn't know if you wanted me to share a screen or if everyone's got it in front of them.
I have it.
We
have
all,
it.
everybody should have printouts.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just go through the printout of the management letter,
Okay.
if that works for everyone.
Yep.
All right, so in the report called the management letter, if you go to page 2, we'll start there with some informational items. These are not findings. These are just items that the town should be aware of as it goes through its strategic process and annual planning. The first one is one that I have in every community. Did we have an echo?
No, we're good. I think we're good.
You're good? Okay. So the first comment I have is a comment that I put in every management letter for every community that we audit, just because it's become basically a pandemic, excuse the word, but the cyber fraud is just at a very heightened pitch, and there's breaches and hacks and towns being locked out of their data, or payroll issues where cyber fraud is being disguised as an employee, so they're trying to direct their pay into different bank accounts. So I just put this reminder out there, really, to just continue to be very vigilant on the cyber front. Challenge your IT provider to really look at things to make sure you're completely up to date. just to avoid any opportunities that could present themselves for a cyber criminal. And especially where a lot of things are being done remotely now with your accounting office and whatnot. So that's my first comment under informational item. My second comment deals with just risk assessment. Oh, Richard has said he can't get his camera to work, so I just wanted to kind of read that off the screen. Did you have a question or a comment, Richard? I saw your microphone come off.
No, I just
No, okay.
can't figure out how to take the camera.
Secondly, just in the risk assessment fraud area, which is kind of a difficult area in Hatfield because you've got a remote accounting function. But what I like to have the accountants do is do these site visits to departments that collect cash, that handle cash, just to make sure that controls are in place, that cash is being turned over timely, that the safeguarding of cash at the department levels. Your treasurer should be involved in that process also with some reconciliation processes in place. So I just want to put that out there also as my annual reminder to just be aware that it does occur, it's out there, and you should have controls in place to help prevent it. The next comment deals with your long-term obligations, and by long-term obligations, I'm talking about OPEB and your pension. So your pension liability is the liability that's incurred because you employ individuals that later will collect a pension. They earn that pension as they work. The more they work, the higher that pension is. So state law requires communities in Massachusetts to begin to fund what that liability will be when these people retire, when these employees retire. The calculation of that right now is 4.4 million. You're a member of Hampshire County Regional Retirement System, so you don't really have any control over that. They tell you what to pay into the system and you pay it in. So there's not a lot of control on the town's end. On the OPEB side, your liability is a little higher. It's 7.8 million. The town can control OPEB, and OPEB is your health insurance liability to employees when they retire who have worked, invested into the town system. The town currently doesn't really have a funding process in place for OPEB, and I do encourage all my towns to begin to look at that and establish some sort of funding process, because it could be a problem years down the road when more people are retired, more people are collecting insurance, and for towns that are not putting money aside, it could be a budget breaker down the road. So that's my little reminders on long-term obligations. Any questions on that?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry.
What are other towns, what are the funding sources other towns are using that are preparing for this?
Yeah, so some towns say, let's put a certain amount away every year. Whatever they can afford, whether it's 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. Some put $500,000 away, a fairly significant amount, depending on how well their finances are. Hatfield doesn't quite have the luxury to go to the high end. Some towns do a percentage of free cash. So when their free cash gets certified by the Department of Revenue, they'll say, okay, we're going to put 15 or 20% of that towards OPEB. So that's another way that is funded. And then a lot of towns, if they have extra money left over in their insurance appropriation at the end of the year, instead of turning that back into the general fund, they'll do a vote at the last meeting of the year to move that into OPEB, a portion of that. So there are several different ways that towns are attacking the problem. And the more money you put in, the money begins to earn interest and it compounds. So the earlier you start the process, the better shape you're in, say 10 or 12 years down the road. So that's kind of the overview. But a lot of towns are way behind like you guys are. Okay, you're not in the abnormal. A lot of towns don't have the money for it and are not doing it. They're choosing to let the pension fully fund 10 or 15 years from now, then using that money to start to fund the OPEB. So there's a couple of different ways you can attack this. Does that answer your question?
Explain that one more time. Let the pension fully.
Yeah, so the Hampshire County, I believe, is scheduled to be fully funded in the early 2030s, so probably 10 years or less. Once that's fully funded, the money that you're putting into pension right now, you no longer have to do that. So 10 or 11 years from now, whenever that happens, you can actually take that money that you are putting into pension and move it over to OPEB and begin to fund your OPEB liability. I have a feeling that the state is going to mandate that once these pensions do become fully funded. I think they're going to mandate something similar. Years ago, the pensions did not require to be funded. That in 1990, the state said, hey, we've got a problem here. Let's begin forcing the funding. So they passed the laws. A lot of states around the country don't have that law. Massachusetts does. So your pension will be fully funded within the next decade. And at that time, towns are saying, let's take that money. And I forget what it is in Hatfield. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but whatever hundreds of thousands that is, or close to, that begins to start to go into your OPEB fund.
Are we trying?
Does that make sense?
Yes.
It does, thank you. Are we trying to build a fund of $7.8 million ultimately in 10 or 20 years? Or what's ultimately our goal for the amount of money we need to have in that fund?
Well, right now it's 7.8 million. So that's the number you need. If you were to want to be 100% funded, that's what you would need right now.
That's the
That number
liability
changes from year to year, depending on how much money you put in.
Yeah.
And how well your investments perform. And the big thing that's killing a lot of people, now, I shouldn't use the word killing, because people are living longer. So the life expectancies are causing this liability to be higher than it was maybe 10 years ago. People are living well into their 80s and early 90s now. So that when your actuary does the valuation, they have to increase that life expectancy. Like every 4 or 5 years, I'm seeing that life expectancy move up, and I don't see that coming down just because of the medical advancements. Good news for us old guys that want to live a little longer, but not great news financially for the town.
Can I just ask one question? So if we were fully funded, would that then decrease the amount that had to be budgeted for health insurance? Because currently we're paying it out of current funds.
Yes, that's 100% correct. If you were fully funded, the plan would pay for the health insurance, and the plan would earn interest. So the interest would start to pay and accumulate for your health insurance for retirees.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yep.
And it's an important point, just something to make you folks aware of as you're doing your long-term strategy. I have an alert on investment income. Hopefully the town is doing something in this area, but we all know what's happening with the economy, with inflation. Wages are flying, the cost to borrow is flying, energy costs are flying. It's making it very difficult for you folks to manage the budget. You go out and you try to hire someone and you've got a set salary in mind, and guess what? No one's available at that salary anymore, so you have to increase it. So that's a burden for the town. On the flip side of that is some good news that investment income yields, which was 0% 2 years ago, are now 5% or higher in short-term investments. So any excess funds that you have, you can begin to now move into bank accounts or treasury notes, anything that's legal in Massachusetts, and earn a little bit more interest. So I wanted to put it on here as an alert in case your treasurer has not begun to do this yet. They should really look into this with whoever your financial advisors are at the town. I don't know off the top of my head who the town is using. But it's definitely a way to yield a little bit more interest income, which would certainly help.
Thank you.
Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Now we can get into the findings. So for those of us who are new to the process, I always say, let's flip the switch back 5 years ago, 7 years ago. The findings were, I think, 20 to 25 pages. When Marlene first arrived, she's like, oh my God, I'm gonna need new reading glasses when I'm done reading this because of the eye strain. There's just so much to read here. So while there are some findings, it's so much better than it was. Back then, there were material weaknesses. There were significant deficiencies. There were just all kinds of things that didn't balance. Records weren't recorded correctly, all kinds of audit adjustments. Those things are.
Lost you, Tony. Can't hear you.
Tony? Tony? He doesn't seem to hear us either.
Write down, can't hear, and show them.
That's the good.
There
Have
he
some
is.
things we need. Want to jump in at all as I'm talking? Please do. I'm sure you've read the management letter. and
We
have,
did
kinda
miss a
got
little bit of that, I
feel for the
think.
landscape at this point.
Tony, we missed a little bit of that. You went silent briefly. But I think you were just sort of explaining that I think you were just explaining that this finding is much better than 5 to 7 years ago.
Yes. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. Yeah. What I was saying is that these findings here are manageable. Okay. 7 years ago, you needed a plan. You had 30 pages and you needed a plan to really set up and fix these things. These are all things that can be fixed fairly quickly. And I'd love to see some improvements in these areas. And I had suggested if Richard wanted to jump in on any of these comments as I go through with them, just to kind of, I know he's got a feel for the landscape right now that he's been in town for a couple of months. But the first one is the cash variance. Now, the cash variance has been around. It's around every year. Sometimes it's 50,000, sometimes it's 10,000, sometimes it's 20,000. It's always positive. It's not a negative cash variance, so it's extra money. But the town can't quite nail this down. So I'd love to see the treasurer, potentially with Richard's help, really focus, and for this year, rather than rush to get the records to me, which is what we have done in the past, let's really focus, get this nailed down, look hard at it. And if the variance is still the same, at some point, we should say, let's make an adjustment. Let's get this variance to 0. And then let's put a process in place moving forward that mitigates any variances moving forward. So those are my comments on the cash variance. It was about $28,000 at the end of 22. And I think it was about 19,000 in the prior year. So like I said, if we can buckle down and clean that up, that'd be great. If we come to the same variances, it means it's something that happened long ago, which we should just adjust at this point. Would you agree with that, Richard?
Yes. Yeah. And I
explain
thought
who
we
Richard
made
is?
an adjustment to this a couple years ago, a cash, I can't remember exactly, but I know we've been carrying this a long time.
There was 50 grand that we,
Yeah.
Yeah, there
And-
was.
and-
It was like a ghost account and
$50,000 that
we-
did we put into
And
it?
the treasurer and accountant continue to work on that variance, see
Right.
if they could, locate it, and they still haven't.
And they still haven't.
They did,
And at that point, the 50,000 was
it has
negative.
come down. Right, it was a positive
that-
number. It was a positive number,
It-
over.
It was, yeah,
Over.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm remembering.
Yeah, it was negative.
Or negative.
And you'd have to
was
raise that. I don't
negative
think the
and-
town ever officially adjusted it. I think you kind of hit it piecemeal over the years, and it ended up flipping to the positive. So like I said, I just want to
Okay. It flipped to
see a
positive.
real and the positive ones don't bother me as much, but I'd still like to see it as close to zero as possible.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Just something to keep in mind of, and it was a little bit bigger than this when we were doing the audit, and Laurie and the treasurer worked together to actually bring it down. So I think with a little more effort, we can probably bring it down to a manageable number. And if not, positive adjustments are good. You book it to miscellaneous income, and you move on, and you put a good process in place going forward.
No, should we explain who Richard is to townspeople?
Oh, Richard, yes. we should.
So I just want to backtrack a little bit. Richard Howarth, who's joining us, is filling in
He
for,
replaced Lori. He's been hired.
replace Lori.
Markham
Right,
has hired
Right,
Richard to
right.
replace Lori.
right, sorry. I just thought townspeople who watch this might wonder who you were.
Oh, I thought everyone knew Richard by now, so I'm sorry. I keep saying
Well,
Richard.
Departments, for the most part, the departments do.
Okay, so we have just 3 more things
Tax
to get
recap.
through.
And we've had this comment for a couple of years, so hopefully we get it nailed down. We actually didn't put this comment until after the last tax recap was done, so it may be an error again. But the indirect costs are not being handled correctly between the general fund and the enterprise fund. So the general fund was kind of getting shortchanged a little bit based on the way the tax recap was being put together. What happened this year is it caused the free cash went down so low this year that it caused the team to really drill down and look at this and say, hey, this is causing part of the free cash problem we have, where the free cash is coming in a lot lower than we expected. So we had explained to Lori how to do this in the future. Richard, when it comes time to do the tax recap, it may make sense for you to have a conversation with my team to make sure that that is being done correctly before we hit the submit button for the 24 recap.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next is just a minor thing with student activities. We did a full-blown audit of student activities, and that whole process is great. The school's managing it well. They had a bunch of comments when we did it the first time 3 or 4 years ago, and they cleaned it all up. They had a couple of minor things that are well on their way to getting fixed. So I'm really happy with the deep dive we did at the student activities. And student activities are monies that the town and the school manage for the kids. It's not town money, but it's money for proms and yearbooks and pictures and field trips and all these extracurricular things. And they're not meant to supplement the budget. They're not meant to buy books or anything in the school. They're meant for those activities. And if there's any money left over, you kind of carry that money forward. A lot of the problems we found the first time we did it got cleaned up. So I just wanted to at least give a shout out to the school that they did a very nice job with that. The one comment that's left is the school ledger and the account and the town's ledger are off by about $9,000. So I wanted to see if there could be a reconciliation of that done at the end of 23 to see where that stands. But like I said, there's a variance of about $9,000. It's not a big variance, not the end of the world, but I'd like to see if that could be resolved also while we're looking at cash. All right, the next comment deals with payroll withholdings, and this is one of those that has been around forever. Basically, when you withhold money from employees for health insurance, annuities, dental insurance, life insurance. When the bill comes, a portion of the bill is paid by the town, and a portion you go get from the money you withheld. Well, there's 9 accounts that some of the balances in these accounts haven't changed in several years. So it's pretty obvious that there's no activity happening with these accounts. And we just wanted to kind of, as the closing process, and I know withholdings are skipped over really quickly when the closing process comes for a town, Take a closer look at those and make sure they make sense. If there's no activity in an account for 3 or 4 years, then why do we need that account? If it's a deficit, you should raise it. If it's a surplus, you close it out. And the balances should make sense as to what's going to be owed in July. So what's owed in July should equal what the liability is or the withholding is at the end of June. So we go through that little test and we found that it was a little off. So again, that's just some housekeeping that I'd like to see done for the next audit. The next comment deals with tailings. Those are old checks that are more than a year old. If they're more than a year old, the Commonwealth allows you to go through a process where you advertise them. You can advertise them on your website or in a local newspaper. And if nobody claims that money, so you write a check to me for $100 and I don't cash it, and you advertise, Tony Roselli, we owe you $100, and I don't claim it, at the end of 12 months, that money belongs to the town. So we did notice as we were going through your GL that amount has not changed. So it doesn't look like anything's been done with respect to tailings, and the treasurer should be looking at their outstanding checklist. Well, anything greater than a year old, they should be advertising that, because that's extra money for the town if it's not claimed. I mean, you want to get it to the rightful party if you can, but you also don't want it sitting on an outstanding checklist for 30 years either. So we did highlight that as another cleanup item. And most of these are not that difficult to accomplish. You usually do it while you're closing the books.
So you advertise it and then you have to wait another full year before you can?
Yeah, once you've advertised, you have 12 months. If they're not claimed in 12 months, then the town can claim those back.
And do you know what the dollar amount is roughly of the tailings?
Off the top of my head, I do not know that amount. I can send an email out. It's not hundreds of thousands. It's not a big amount, but it's something that the town should do every year.
Okay. Yeah, because people could have lost a check that they should have had, and they just didn't know or something.
You like to get it to the people.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
forget.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll find a check in the bottom of my drawer for $58 that I just forgot about. It's and those add up. If you have 100 of those, it adds up. That's
right.
$5,800. So those do add up.
Okay.
The last comment I have is on the assessor's overlay. This is another reason why the free cash is a little lower. When the Department of Revenue calculates free cash, they subtract whatever's in the assessor's overlay balance from your final figure. The assessor sent us a letter saying there was only about $6,000 in exposure, yet the liability for overlay is $173,000. So there is some income there that the town can claim. This is 2022, so you may have already done this, claimed some of this for your budget or for stabilization or something. So this is a comment that might be outdated at this point.
Well, I know the assessors are looking at that and considering reducing.
Yeah, I don't remember that as
Reducing-
part of the discussion for
reducing
this
that.
Yeah,
particular
I don't think we
budget.
did anything with that.
No, we didn't.
No.
But that would be good to keep an eye on for
Yeah.
next year.
Mhm.
It's a nice little funding source.
Tony, I appreciate all the work that went into this and all this information, and the work that's been done to get it to this point. I mean, obviously, there's still some things that need to be done.
Mm.
I suspect most of your management letters have most of these items on them, or most municipalities,
Yeah.
but we're now kind of at the standard
Yeah.
as you bring up.
Yeah, these are standard comments. They appear in a lot of management letters. In fact, I cut and paste a lot of them and just changed the names to make it easier on myself, because all towns have the same sorts of comments. Low-hanging fruit, it can be fixed. They're easy to fix. The cash variance might require an adjustment, but I don't see any reason why, at the close of the year, a lot of these could be, could be gone from the management letter. But again, it's not anything that's beyond standard still.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? I know Tony has, I think, something else to do this evening.
Yep.
so.
No, thanks, Tony. This is much more fun than it was a couple of years ago, so thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much for having me. I'll sign off if there are no other questions.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Richard.
Thanks. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Thanks for being here. You're welcome to stay. Yep.
We just need to do some
We can do
housekeeping.
that out in the
We can,
hall.
we can do
We'll go out
that.
in the hall so these
Okay.
guys can
Yeah, you guys
continue
are in a
with their-
hurry, so we just need to do minutes.
Oh,
It's
You
very,
don't, yeah.
you don't need to listen to our minutes.
You can certainly use the
Silly.
table in my office if you'd like to make yourself more comfortable.
you're welcome. Thank you. Nice seeing you.
Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
I know, it's winding down.
School's starting. It's Hadley gone to school yet?
Hadley, we leave tomorrow.
Oh.
She goes tomorrow.
She's
I
gonna
know.
be great.
She's gonna
And
be
you and Jim
great.
will survive.
Yes, we will. She's gonna do great. Thanks for asking, Daryl. Okay, so we're gonna try to get this back on track, Bob. I know you've been patiently waiting back there. Did you want to come up? Because if I'm reading this right, you're next. So we did take up the bonfire, but there is a request for additional ARPA funding and then also,
Well, it's actually existing ARPA funds that
Some was existing and then some.
was authorized in
Right.
22.
Okay,
and it's
so
just- yeah.
let me get to this here in my, sorry, I have stuff.
It's okay.
I have a lot of stuff. Did I already go by it? You can talk. I'll
Okay.
look.
So essentially, if you haven't had a chance to read the letter that I put through,
I did.
is there was money that was appropriated through ARPA in 22. It got carried over to 23 because we still had a little bit left over for EMS expenses. I was waiting to get some quotes on some apparel due to a request from some of the membership, but also just changing of staffing. You know, we did hire some college students. They've left. They didn't necessarily return any of their uniforms, so it kind of left us short. And then because of it taking a little longer to get some of the quotes, I wasn't able to expend some of the money in FY23. So that was where the request for the $1,426.68 would be to the remainder of FY23 to carry to 24. And then an additional $3,500 in ARPA funds to facilitate the purchases of more shirts and baseball caps or knit caps for the per diem staff. It was a request of some of the membership of the department to get out of t-shirts and go to polo shirts. So they do cost a few dollars more per shirt. I found a vendor who will do it for a little bit cheaper than what we had been getting them for. So that's essentially what it was, is to make us look more like the shirts that I wear and the full-time staff wear every day, so we all look the same. So that's essentially what that was. And the reason for the ARPA request is because the ambulance specifically only has $2,000 in the uniform and PPE line, and that currently I use that funds to cover the cost of the EMS coats, the high-vis stuff that are required when we're working on the highway or working on roadways. And they're also bloodborne pathogens. So that money is really allocated to keep using to go towards the coats. And this is
I just have one question. You know, we've been very strong supporters over the years of the fire department and equipment and stuff. And you have something that other organizations don't have. You have a firemen's association that raises money, and they use the money for fire department or other organizations. Did you ask about the shirts with the fire department?
I did not approach
association?
this to the fire association. They've bought some other equipment for the new mini pumper and things this year, so I didn't go back to them for the additional money. They spent $3,400 on a fan and a few other items over the last 12 months, so I didn't go back to them. And
The only reason I'm bringing it up is because with the ARPA funds, my worries now are we have the furnace in the town hall that might need to be replaced. You have a boiler over at elementary school. They're supposed to be both looked at to see what kind of condition they are in. We also have some figuring out something for the TV studio, and we have some other stuff. So that's the only reason I was asking if somehow for smaller cost items, the association might be willing to help with the shirts. If they're not, they're not. But I mean,
I didn't broach this subject. I had already hit them for about $4,000 or $5,000 over the last couple of months. So I didn't go back to them for this one.
and with the 5 and 10 project, I'm worried too with ARPA funds because
Yeah,
we're going to get hit again. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of needs, a lot of wants. But I just thought I'd have to ask that question because the bonfire is going to be in October, and I know that's a good fundraiser. So
So why isn't there uniform budget already in your budget?
We do. We have the $2,000 and that's being used in the ambulance line to be used towards purchasing the high-vis coats.
So this wasn't foreseen? I mean, your budget's only in, we're only in by less than 2 months into the budget year, and this is somehow unforeseen that the guys need uniforms. I'm
Well,
not
part of why
following
it
this.
wasn't put in for the FY24 budget is because going through the budgeting process, we were in limbo and weren't sure if the ambulance was even going to still be functioning as of July 1st. So I did not include it into the budget because we weren't sure if we were going to be operating. It
Well,
was
but we-
questionable for a
Well,
while.
you
but
included,
you did get a budget to operate for the
Right.
year. I have to say, my concern is there just seems to be a request for additional funds from the fire department on almost every agenda. Like at some point, this has to stop. And I'm not sure that this is, you know, we've had to do the extra funding things, you know, we'll do that. But this one just, I'm not sure is a necessity. I mean, there should have been more than a $2,000 line for the uniforms. But I just am concerned that there's just been request after request.
I believe I only put 2 for the fire department. This is the second one I think I put in. I did the one for the training overtime because my budget was short from what I originally requested. I think
There's been a lot of, but we've
Yeah.
done a lot of ARPA funding.
a lot of ARPA.
Okay.
I believe this is the fire department's second one.
Okay.
So does ambulance and fire have a clothing allowance or a clothing line item?
I have one on the fire side that is for PPE, so that's where
And
I
that's
put
the
by the turnout
2,000?
gear. So the turnout gear is $3,100 per set. And I have $7,500 in the account.
Okay.
So when I buy turnout gear, I 2 sets of gear.
So the
close
gear,
that.
like, I mean, I see people around with the sweatshirts and the shirts like yours. Who doesn't the town pay for those?
So mine is part of the department budget. It's allocated part of my contract. The t-shirts that everybody's wearing was paid for out of this original allocation of ARPA funds. Anybody that buys the sweatshirt style, we call them a Reuben, they purchase those on their own if they want to buy one.
well, how did everybody get their uniforms before this request, and how are they going to get it after this if we approve it?
So the original purchase of the t-shirts was out of the first round of approval for ARPA funds.
But I mean, without ARPA, you guys had uniforms. Is what I'm saying. I don't understand why it's not like just part of your budget to have uniforms and replacements. I see you have it for the turnout gear and the PPE for the ambulance people,
Yep.
but you don't have like a regular budget line for like uniform replacement for even next year.
No, we don't. Again, part of it was due to the fact that as we were building the budget, we weren't sure what the status of the ambulance going into FY24 was. So I did not include any extra because we weren't sure if the ambulance was going to be functioning. It does not have to be approved. It was something that was just brought up.
We
That's all.
knew that regardless of what happened, it wasn't happening this year. I mean, we moved forward. I was under the impression we moved forward with your budget for your department to function the way that it should function.
It was, but we submit a budget in December, and if the override had not passed, we would not have had an ambulance for the new fiscal year. That was a big piece of it, is that if the override had failed, we would not have had a functioning ambulance.
But you still would have built a budget.
So building the budget is going one direction, and then if the service isn't there, there's nothing to, you don't have anybody, you don't have a function. It doesn't have to be. It was brought forward as to upgrade, but I can wait until after October and go to the association.
I am concerned about the ARPA funds. I don't I guess I'm hesitant on spending those with all the foreseeable potential problems that we're going to have. Honestly.
And that's fine. Obviously, we don't know the other costs when I submit these that
Yeah.
are potential issues for the town.
So you'd be able to get them t-shirts, the standard that they've been wearing.
Yeah, right now I'd probably be able to buy, a dozen or so shirts.
Don't you have $1,400 left?
Nope, because it was only your original vote was only to carry it to FY '23, not to continue it until it was expended.
Right.
Okay,
It was
so,
given in '22, and then he was authorized to carry it over to for '23.
okay. And it wasn't spent in that
Yeah,
year
I was dealing with trying to get quotes and nobody would get back to me and
for shirts?
for shirts. Yeah. So I ended up not getting them until after July 1st.
I guess I would like to hold off on this. I'm just a little concerned about using ARPA funds.
I'm
Or-
very concerned on ARPA funds with stuff coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, if for any reason after the bonfire, the association said they can't help, then maybe come back.
Yeah, I can certainly broach the subject with them after the event.
Okay.
Or so this carryover that's already gone from there?
So the 1,426, though, you'd still like authorization to use that in the current fiscal year, right?
Ideally, that would help.
So, right, because
Purchasing,
that was,
right.
and that was kind of what I was trying to
So
ask.
that's
So,
unspent.
because this totally you're asking for about $5,000
Correct.
for new polo shirts,
And hats, yes.
polo shirts and hats.
Correct.
That just, first of all, that seems pretty steep, but also, I'm just not sure that we should be doing that. The 14, that's why I asked about this 1,400. You could get t-shirts with that
Correct.
to replace the ones that people who left kept,
Correct.
which is fine. And nobody should have to wear someone else's t-shirt. So, I mean,
If that money is there and it was originally appropriated for the fire department. I
that I'm
actually don't
fine
have a
with, the
problem with-
1,400 and
with the
get new
1,400.
t-shirts. They should have something to wear.
I'd be okay with carrying that over.
Yeah, I would be okay with carrying that over so that you can outfit them so that they're appropriately identified
Yes.
as,
Mhm.
but then maybe just not go to polo shirts for it.
So I guess I can make a motion to approve the ARPA funds in the amount of $1,426.68 to be carried over to FY '24 from FY '23, right? Okay.
A second.
I would just add for the purpose of buying t-shirts and hats,
Okay.
Uniforms.
uniforms.
I'll second that.
A motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
No. So we'll hopefully a good compromise
Yep,
there.
that works.
Okay. But thanks for bringing it to our attention. And then the revolving fund, you wanted to discuss setting up a revolving fund, which makes perfect sense to me, I guess. I mean, you're doing these various, I'll let you explain it to
So
townspeople.
this kind of came about, obviously the police department, they do details and it's the revolving fund. I think everybody's aware of it. In the last couple of years, we've been asked to provide EMS coverage for different events that are going on in town, the Wheel Bike for Food, the competitive edge race that happens, and a few other things that go on in town, the marathon or the road race at Black Birch. And so those are all private events. And ultimately, we've been sending an EMT up there for the last few years. Most of these are a single person standby. And essentially, it ends up being that our budget covers the cost because the fire department has no way to recoup those monies. We can bill the entity that's running the event, but we don't have any revenue accounts for it to go into for certain events. So it ends up going into the general fund, which then, yes, potentially comes back, a year later or so forth, a little less on the ambulance side. So this came to be is that because we've been being asked for more events, and I ran into an issue last year with one of the races in town, So I foresee that we may be providing the EMS coverage for that event going forward. They can pay us, but the residents shouldn't be on the hook for having to pay any of those fees. So this
Nor your
was-
department, your line.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
I
our
mean,
budget covering
yeah.
those costs. So this was a way to, very similar to the police, they invoice it, we collect the money, and then we pay them their rate. And it would be a detail rate. It'll be less ultimately than the current police rate, just because there's other pieces that are involved in there. And I've started getting some pricing from a couple of other agencies to see what they're charging per hour, if there's a certain fee. So it'll cover all of its own costs, and then the town still gets the 10% admin fee, no matter what
Right.
the
And then,
invoice ends up being.
right. And
I
it
met
just
with
seems
the
like
accountant last week to
yeah.
talk to him about it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I thought
Worked
originally
out the
needed a town
details.
vote. It sounds like because it's the way that the account is, they can essentially.
So would
it
you
could
be
just
hopping
set.
on the police detail one?
Richard, actually, the town accountant, he felt that it was better to have our own, so we can both
Separate,
kind of
yeah.
manage our
Yep.
funds. We're not sure what money's going in,
Yeah.
which
That's
is fine.
probably, yeah, I think
totally
it's,
fine.
and so we just have to set that up. I think it's a great idea. There's no reason why the line, your line should be paying for private details, just very much like the police line.
Right.
I agree.
So I have no problem with it whatsoever. I'm kind of surprised. Well, you're saying you're experiencing it more than you used
Yes,
to.
I
Yeah.
don't think we ever had it. I mean, Greg was manager for a while, and we didn't really do that many, maybe one a year for a couple of hours, but now it's becoming probably
Right.
6, maybe 8 times a year, 4 to 8 hours, depending on the event. So it's just becoming more money that's going to ultimately come from our budgets for something that's a private event. So-
Yeah.
We just
No,
have to
let's-
track that the money is coming in.
Correct. That was the one piece that
Yeah.
Richard said, is that, we could pay the folks up front
Mhm.
and then wait for the money to come back. It's a double-edged sword, because if they end up not paying,
And you're on the hook.
the town
for
is
it.
going to be on the hook for it. So it's going to end up having to come from
Yeah.
free cash.
Well,
or
then you
whatever
don't
at
cover the
end,
event next
or
year,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Or
I mean,
That's easy.
we
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
wait, and our employees are going to have to understand that, you won't get your pay until we get. the
well, it
money
should
back
operate
from
however the
them.
police one does.
Yeah, they shouldn't have to.
It's the
wait.
They
same.
shouldn't have to
It's the
wait. That's
same.
not right.
I mean, I don't foresee anybody ever not
I mean,
paying.
everyone
think
you've
we're gonna
listed,
get
I
it.
think are entities that would
Yeah.
pay in a timely
Mm-hmm.
manner. So
I don't want the town on a liability, but I don't feel that anything that we're going to go and work for, I don't think anybody's not going to pay the bill. I don't
I can't
foresee it being
imagine
an
that.
issue,
Yeah.
so.
So, and if that happens, we'll deal with that when that happens. But, so I'm all for setting this up. Is there doesn't need to be a vote to do it?
Richard seemed to say that there was no local vote or town meeting vote required.
Right, that's
Oh.
correct. We just wanted to be transparent and make sure the select board is
Yeah,
is
and,
okay
and
with
residents
this.
know. And,
Right.
And just to acknowledge that that was the
Yeah.
intent, to set up an account,
okay.
And it's going to be,
a revenue and expense.
it's fire and EMS. I think the paperwork says fire officer. We don't want to, it's fire and EMS
Right,
details.
right.
Because we have also been asked to go out and do a fire standby. If somebody's putting in a new fire suppression system, they need somebody to do a pump test while they're doing everything.
Mhm.
Again, the town shouldn't have to be, we shouldn't be eating the cost of that. That's on them. So it's kind of an all-encompassing, that if it's an anything private entity that's hiring us.
And, okay, so we don't vote to set those rates or anything like
No,
that?
no.
Okay. Okay.
I don't believe they set the rate, right?
Well,
No,
don't we
that's
set the
not-
I mean,
police
I could bring
revolving
them
rate?
forward once I finalize it. I was working on that today, just because there's a couple of options.
Well, the select board in the past has voted the police
Yeah, we
detail
do
rate.
vote the police rate.
So
I mean,
yeah, I think,
Yeah,
just when
I
you
think
know what that's
I
going
have
to
to
be.
create
Matter
them,
of
and then you
just
guys
good
have to approve
practice.
them.
Yes,
Right.
as I think that would be a good
Right,
practice.
because it's for payroll purposes.
Right. And just for transparency, so residents understand
Mhm.
everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
not a problem. I'm pretty sure I'll be back in your next meeting, because I'll have ambulance abatement, so I can just
Okay.
present them to you at that meeting.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't have any more questions about it. I think that seems pretty straightforward.
I just request 2 minutes.
Yes. Oh, a break.
Oh,
I thought you
break,
meant 2
John.
minutes
2
of
minutes.
Bob's time.
That's what I
Okay.
thought he meant.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back. Okay, we are back after just a short break, and we just have, it looks like a few more, oh, no, quite a bit, quite
Yeah,
a
quite a
bit of
bit.
stuff to get
Don't go
through.
by quick.
Ay, ay, ay. So we're gonna backtrack here to topic 4, which is the DPW report. And Brandon, are you here for that?
Like I said, I'm not here for the report. It was just the rate increase that Phil proposed.
Yep, okay, and that's really the only DPW issue on here, because
Yeah,
obviously
He
we,
didn't mention anything else. So-
yeah, obviously we talked about the larger project already. I personally don't have a problem with this. I think that, you know, we've set some precedent with some other people with specialized licenses and qualifications in town, because these are positions that we need to hold on to when we have good employees. So I don't have a problem with, there's in front of us a proposed wage increase for Brandon and as our assistant water superintendent. And I had a chance to meet with Brandon some lately and, you know, really got an appreciation for your qualifications and your professionalism. So
you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
But you know, whatever you guys want to talk
Well,
about.
I do have some concerns. I'm not looking at this from, I know you're a great employee and you do fantastic, but from my side of the house, I look at the position and the responsibilities. So I originally asked Phil for information on what job description was. And in order for me to say, okay, this job constitutes a 13% increase, what additional responsibilities have increased for this particular job? And the only thing in this packet that I'm seeing is job comparisons to a superintendent's position, and your present position is like an assistant. So
Correct.
that's where I'm having trouble saying, okay, 10 grand more, what does the town get out of it? How has the jobs changed? Are we asking, is Phil asking, or you're asking for 2 superintendent positions when we only have 1? So that's where my head is, and that's where I'm having a little trouble, because I don't know if, I mean, I see increasing employees based on responsibilities. We brought people up, but this is sort of, to me, a large ask. So I think I have to get in my head these questions resolved before I can move forward with saying, yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
I guess I would just follow up, as I said, there has been precedent, particularly with people who have specialized licenses within the DPW operating the various plants, the water plant, or the sewer plant, because it's not, for me, an issue necessarily that there has to be a change in duties to do this. It's a realization that people who are working for Hatfield, and not just in this position, in a variety of positions, are significantly, are paid significantly less than other communities. And we know that we can lose these licensed and credentialed employees to other neighboring towns who are offering much more money. We've made changes to salaries at the sewer plant. We've made changes to salaries in the highway department. We've made changes to salaries in the fire department. We are constantly trying to make sure that we're getting to a point of being more competitive and retaining the good employees that we have. And to me, this is about retaining a good employee. We would not want to be in a position of having to fill this position because frankly, the candidates aren't out there.
Well, on the other hand, when we did do other employees, we had a comparative of other communities for that position, of what those positions are. Right now in my packet, I don't have a comparative for compared to other towns. I only have a comparative to a position that's higher from other towns. So that's why I'm saying I don't know what the job pays. I don't mind paying if it's an average, and I do want to keep a good employee, but in the past, like with the water treatment, we were told that if the person doesn't get a raise, they're going to leave, and that person ended up leaving anyway. So, I mean, I don't know if I just 13% increase without any more information, for me, I just can't honestly do it. I apologize for that. I know you're an outstanding employee. I've heard nothing but good about you, but I'm not looking at it. I have to look at it from positions, and if I had some more information on your present position, job responsibilities, what it pays compared to others, then I could probably make a better decision. But with having the information of a higher position, that's just me. But I mean, my colleague, that's why there's three of us. So if my colleagues disagree, then so be it.
I don't like to disagree with you, Ed, but it does happen occasionally, I guess. Greg, do you have any thoughts or questions?
Well, I agree on a lot of what Ed said, and I believe that this is a really, really big raise. I know we're trying to adjust to be comparative to other people or other communities. I don't know what the other communities are being are comparatively, because I don't have that information either. But
I would be happy to review this if we could get some further information on.
Right, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Phil, because obviously he's not here. I
No.
don't know if he had something special set aside.
I
that he wanted
mean,
to say,
if-
but-
I would like is your present job responsibilities for your position and how that job position compares with people in the same position in other communities.
Yep,
And then I'd be allowed to re-entertain this, which I mean, based on that.
right, okay.
But that's me. I mean,
well, I agree. I don't want you to leave by any means. I like you
I don't
staying.
wanna leave.
I like you being here. Yeah.
Um,
I hear great things about you, but I also have to answer to the townspeople as to where I came up with this. I just can't
Right.
say, "Oh, they gave me a nice piece of paper, so I gave the guy an extra $10,000 a year,"
oh,
which
no,
is
I
way
understand.
cool.
I understand.
Well, and
I would love
the
it.
other ones we adjusted, it was one community. It wasn't like a full survey of a bunch of different towns, right?
I can tell you with the two that were attached in the packet were both very accepting of just my credentials, two, my years of experience, where I would have it would have not been a lateral slide over that. It would have been an increase to take that actual superintendent's position.
Oh, that's what I was just going to ask.
They
It
weren't-
was
yeah,
for the
There was
superintendent.
going to be very little discrepancy. And I actually withdrew Southampton, depending on what we were going to hear from this, and because once I talked to Phil. So I'm not actively looking for them. I don't know if they filled that position yet, but that would have been pretty much an open door if I wanted it.
For the water superintendent.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
I mean,
like I said, I don't want to leave here. I've been here 11 years full time. I know this infrastructure. I know the town inside and out, and I love it here.
I mean, that's great. I mean, I hate to lose you too, but at the same token, if somebody comes in and said, well, if I don't get this raise, I'm leaving, that's, how can I say to the townspeople, yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's,
I think, I do think, I get what you're saying, but for particular positions that require particular training and credentials that we know are difficult to find, it's to me, there's a greater sense of urgency.
then that should mean we should be able to get that information very easily.
Brandon, I know you hold the licenses that are required.
Yep.
Do you hold other licenses that are
Above that, I mean, OSHA 10, OSHA 30. I don't need my CDL anymore. I don't need my OSHAs anymore. I still have those. Backflow license, everything else. So essentially, if Tony steps away or is out or absent, I am fully licensed to take over the water plant as is.
Okay,
And there
okay,
does not need to be any stand-in person
Okay,
involved
that's
in the
good
middle
to
of
know.
us. Yeah.
that's good to know.
And as far as our duties, I mean, we're alternating every other 2 weeks, every pay period, basically. So we handle weekends opposite of each other. So if he's not there, it's really not like a big loss. Or, I'm not saying a loss, but it's completely covered legally. DEP, EPA recognizes that.
Yeah.
So
All right.
basically we're almost doing the same thing currently.
Right.
So
So in his absence, you would pretty much
yeah,
You're the
there'd be
person
really no transition of power.
responsible.
There'd be no anything
To
else.
operate
It's pretty
the
much
plant
gonna
and-
run as it is currently. So
So I guess
Well-
like his salary also might be a part of my consideration too.
that's
I don't know.
totally up to you
That's
guys
not
and
for
Phil.
Oh, no,
mean,
I know. I'm
that's-
just saying,
Yeah.
well,
I think, Brandon, it would be helpful though if we have a job description
Yep, yep, and like
for-
I wasn't sure exactly
If
what
the board has
Phil
a job
was,
description.
Phil presented you guys already or didn't, so, like I said, I don't want to.
I have a feeling that the fact finding will probably show that the new salary request is competitive. So,
I believe it will too, but I want to have it
Yeah.
before I
Sure.
go into
No,
it. I don't want to just do it blindly.
Yeah.
Totally understand. If I knew that ahead of time, I would actually.
You know,
ask
my
you.
office will go ahead and reach out to other communities to get that
Yep.
information.
And I don't think that's a hard request. I think it's good to have that because now we can show the town that
it
the
is good
reason
to
we
have it.
increased
100%.
because
I
they're
fully
it's the
agree with
town
that.
people that pay the bills. So we got to be able to go to them and say,
Right.
this is why you're paying a little bit more. That's
Mhm.
all.
And then just making sure, sounds like it's in the budget. It's within
Yeah,
the
Phil did
budget.
reiterate that to me, that there was
Yeah,
absolutely no
it's,
change.
Yeah.
so there's no
Salaries.
additional request to the line. It's just, okay. Okay, that information would be great.
Yeah, thank you guys for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon,
Thank
for
you. Thank you.
everything.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, Marlene, we're finally getting to you.
Oh, do I have items?
You have a lot of items.
Yeah, they're
But some
quick.
of them are pretty quick.
They're quick, right,
You
right.
pretty much have your own page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two requests, one from the DPW director and from the wastewater superintendent to carry over vacation time.
I want to speak on these two.
Me too, I
mean,
have some
I
thoughts.
got some,
Okay.
I got
I
some
got some
concerns.
thoughts.
Now, in the past, we have done carryovers based on different situations, like the fire chief, he didn't have staff, he was doing water calls. We didn't have a problem with that. But the
COVID created some problems.
Right, last couple of years, we've been telling our department heads, make sure you take your vacation. We don't want these big payouts at the end of the year. And with Phil, he's got two backups. He's got Tony and he's got Garrett. So if he takes time off, there's somebody there that can fill his shoes for a short time. So this request from Phil not only asks for 110 hours to be carried, it doesn't even give an explanation if he's planning on use it by 2024. So that sort of bothers me. Whereas the other request, I can understand because he's been on his own and he's finally got some help. So I can understand that one.
So that Ed and I are back to agreeing with each other. So this is a good place to be. Because I do have a problem with this 110-hour carryover. That's a lot of time to carry over. I don't think that the reasons listed for why he's asking are really that compelling. There's no reason why those things should have held up taking that much vacation time. So I think that Phil was one person we had said, please use your time. Don't ask us again.
More than once.
And so I do have a problem with Phil's, but I would agree with you that for Kenny, he didn't have much. First of all, it's a more reasonable request to carry, slightly more reasonable, but there's a good reason why he wasn't able to take the time.
Yeah, because he
He
didn't
should
have.
be in a position to now because.
And he should be in a position
Because
to
Eric
now.
Meals is helping out there
Right.
too.
Yeah, and with any vacation request, including Kenny's, I would always like to see a date by which,
Right.
like I think Bob's provided that with us when he's given a
Mhm.
request, he'll say, I plan to use it by such and such a
Right.
date.
Right.
So, I mean, neither of these have that, but I am in favor of granting Kenny's tonight. I am not in favor of granting that. I mean, maybe we can have Phil request a smaller amount or something, but I don't see a reason why, I would agree with you, why Phil's asking for a carryover at all, and certainly for that large. I'm sorry, did you want to?
I would like a deadline on this too. I want to see an end to this. Yeah.
For Phil's?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to allow Kenny's to go through. And that was, I'll make a motion to allow carry of 80 hours because he does also indicate he plans on using it by the end of 2024.
Wait a second, so this is 90 in addition to
allowed.
80?
And requesting to carry over 90 hours of vacation along with 80 hours. So Yeah.
Yeah, so
is that
he
10,
can,
an
you can
additional
always
10
carry, you
hours,
can
or-
always carry
You
2
can carry over
no?
up to the 2 weeks, yeah.
An additional 2.5. So that's a lot. But
Yeah.
he does say that he will use them by the end of 24,
Correct.
fiscal
Yeah.
24.
But he's going to continue to accrue vacation. So he's already carrying over the 2
Right, I
weeks that's
understand that.
allotted.
It is a lot.
And then he'll continue to accrue.
So
he'll need.
Can
to-
can I amend your motion to say
May amend my
that,
motion. I'll withdraw my
no,
motion.
I
You
wouldn't,
can,
I wouldn't,
You can
I
amend
just
it.
want to add to it
can
that
amend it.
this would be the last carryover allowed. That, in other words, at the end of fiscal 24, I would not entertain another carryover. So take what you can, and then, you've got a full year practically now to sort of split that up so that it can be taken in a way that works for both him and for the department.
And I agree with that, and make sure all department heads are notified of that.
In other words, I don't want to keep entertaining these carryovers from year to year.
Correct. And
So Kenny
I'll-
had a good reason to have this accrual this year because of the situation at the plant and the staffing situations, but have a plan for using it
Right.
and have a plan for not requesting any more carryover next year.
So your amendment that, on Ed's motion, that this be the last carryover, that's in general, that encompasses all employees, or
that for-
just Kenny's?
I would say for just Kenny's. I mean, that's
Okay.
what we're working
I
on
wasn't sure,
tonight.
and then Ed,
So that Kenny
said-
gets a specific directive that we want him to be able to use this time, but please make his best effort to use it within this year, because we would not entertain
okay,
anything other than a typical allowable by
sure.
contract or personnel policy carryover. Unless there's additional extenuating circumstances.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No,
And then Phil should either
Come in
speak
front
to
of
us about
us.
this and talk about it, amend it, something, but that's, yeah.
that I agree with.
Okay.
A vote.
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
thanks, Greg. It's getting late.
It's okay.
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 The next item is the employment agreement renewal for the treasurer collector, and
Did we already
actually,
do this?
you did, and you accepted the proposed changes, but the board has not voted the employment agreement and signed
Oh,
it.
Okay. So this is just a
And it had
formality
been-
of,
Yes, it
yeah.
had been sent to Patty, and just was waiting for her to
okay.
send it back.
And she has, I
delayed.
see she has.
Yeah, so she did ask me to inquire with the board about comp time. So previously, her first agreement, she was authorized, and actually there's language in here, to take comp time, but, use it for her, I think, within 6 months. And she hasn't been able to really use all that comp time, but she will be using it as part of her leave of absence
Oh, so then what's the question?
that she carried over
Oh, yeah,
beyond June
that's fine.
30th.
She can use that.
before
I
June
have no
30th.
problem with that.
Okay,
As,
Mm.
yeah,
Because we already agreed to this.
yeah.
you did.
We
It was
did.
just the comp time.
And it's going to be
was-
used, so as
it
long as
will
it's going to be used.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm fine with that. And it's already in here anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't need to make a motion, we just need to sign? Or do we actually need to vote it again?
Vote the agreement.
Okay, I'll take a
Yeah,
motion
The
then.
contract
I'll
agreement.
make a motion that we accept the contract between the town of Hatfield and Patricia Cotton for
Actually,
her
this was,
as a collector,
yeah, actually, this should be retro to July 1st.
starting July 1st.
Right.
Second.
Motion made and second, any further discussion?
No.
Greg? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, approval of human resource policy manual?
Just also one other support services agreement.
Oh, yes.
With Strategic Municipal Services. So you know the treasurer collector is out. And I have been looking into hiring temporary support services. We do need a treasurer collector to lead in that office.
Mhm.
And currently I'm estimating through the end of this calendar year
Okay,
Strategic Municipal Services has a retired treasurer collector that's available to work 16 hours per week. I'd prefer if it was more than 16 hours a week, but that's all they can do right now.
okay. I'm fine with that.
This is an hourly rate of $95 per hour. I have some money in my budget, the town administrator's budget for professional services, but that will get eaten up pretty quickly.
Okay.
So
I mean, we have no choice but to
Yeah.
do this, so.
it would be a conversation I'd
Yep.
have with the finance committee and about transferring money from reserve to cover that cost.
Okay. We should probably do that sooner rather than
Yes.
later.
But
And I don't have a contract in here to sign.
For it's, the original's not in there?
No,
Okay. Well, here, let me give
we
you
can vote it.
this one from my packet.
I have one in the packet, but it's just a
I
copy.
can go ahead and sign it.
Oh,
if
you
the board
sign it.
agrees.
Oh,
I
yeah,
haven't
okay.
signed it. I can,
Okay.
but if
I'm
you
fine with
prefer
it.
to-
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Greg?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Just wanted to make
Ed?
sure the board
Not a
was
problem with that.
comfortable with hiring.
Good.
So do you want us to make a motion, to
Yes,
actually take a
please.
vote? So we need I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with Strategic Municipal Services for an interim treasurer services while necessary.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Human Resource Manual?
Yes, so the board had completed reviewing this in last year, and then this current year, there's been some changes, and you had an opportunity to take a look at it. It was really adding the DPW policies, a clothing allowance, and then the minimum 4-hour call-out.
Right.
And when I looked back, when the board finished completing review of the HR policy last year, there was never a vote to accept it.
Okay.
I
I
do
don't-
want to ask the board, though, if you go to page 15, this classification plan has been part of this HR policy for a very long time. We don't use it. I
Oh,
think because we just weren't in a position to use
Right.
it.
So should we,
Efforts have certainly been made to bring,
if we
Positions
omit
up.
that, does it alter any other parts of the agreement? In
No.
other words, these grades aren't referred to
they're
through,
not referred to
okay.
anywhere else.
so we
it's
could
just
just
there.
approve it but omit
Omit
10.6?
6, correct.
I would be fine with that.
It's just bookkeeping, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you, Ed, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I know. This started when I first got on the board. They started doing a piece at a
Yeah, it
time.
took quite a while.
Time ago.
Took quite a while to go through it, and town council
It's actually kind of a big
reviewed it.
deal tonight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it, so I will make a motion that we approve the Human Resource Policy Manual, but omit Section 10.6 Classification Plan.
Okay.
Second.
A motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Next up is the board needs to revoke Heritage Tavern's liquor license.
Mhm.
Karen has made several attempts to reach them, and they still haven't responded. So as you know, the Heritage Tavern, they just closed up. They didn't even notify the town. So it's unfortunate that,
It really is.
yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So there really needs to be a record that the select board has revoked that license. I mean, they can't use it anywhere else anyway.
Okay, I'll make a motion to revoke the Heritage Tavern liquor license.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just an update on Day Pond. As you know, the town submitted an application to the Community Preservation Committee, and they funded
Mhm.
to do an analysis of of the water. And a few weeks ago, TCR was out there to do the sediment collections. They're currently putting together the report. They were very grateful for Phil's help. He assisted them that day out there on site. And so they were there for a few hours. As I said, they're working on the report, and I should have that report by August 31st.
Nice.
Great,
Great.
thanks.
We received notification from the U.S. Treasury. They've implemented new uses for the authorization or for ARPA funds. Actually, if you're going to consider those uses, the board would have to authorize it as we do the other types of uses.
So these are, I thought it
Um,
was
so-
open. Is this restricting it to these
No,
uses?
they've added.
adding it. I thought it was
they've
pretty open.
implemented some new uses, which is for emergency relief from natural disasters. And I believe that's because of all the natural disasters that are occurring throughout
Right.
the country. Surface transportation projects and Title I projects.
And I see community development.
Yes,
Where I don't.
that's
see-
under Title I.
That's under Title I. Okay.
I projects.
So that's just
Housing and
in
community
addition. It's,
development. In
I wasn't sure
addition-
if it was restrictive.
In addition
Okay.
to the current uses.
Okay,
So just wanted to bring that to the
okay,
board's attention.
great, thank you.
Welcome.
And this is a summary of this ARPA spending.
Yes, the balance is $374,796.
Okay.
You'll recall that G&S Industrial had expressed interest. They came before the board to
Yeah.
transfer their license to Harrison Diesel Solutions. And G&S came in and Mr. Savard, right, Savard. And apparently, I don't quite understand it, but one of the manufacturing companies that he works with would like the person that's going to be taking over the business receive more training before the license is transferred. So the select board needs to rescind that vote of July 11th, 2023. And is Mr. Savard going to apply again? He'll have to get a license.
Well, because. Well, if we're rescinding,
If we're
didn't we give
rescinding
the
vote
license to him?
transfer it, or, became, the license was issued to Drew Harrison.
Right, further on, you'd have to vote to reinstate.
So is Mr. Savard going to continue to operate?
Yes.
So
then
he
He
needs
needs
his,
a new license.
If you can vote to reinstate his license that he had before. I don't
Well,
know
that
if can be
license was
done.
good for the year, but the board, so, yeah, if you're voting to rescind it.
did he do all the paperwork to renew?
No.
Oh, we can't renew it if he didn't do that. I mean, we can rescind, so right now there'd be no license there.
Right, that's the way I'm looking at it.
That's how I look at it. If we rescind our vote to license Harrison, then there's no license. And if Gary hasn't done what he needs to do what he would have had to do if he was just doing a normal yearly renewal, then there's no license.
Then maybe what we could do is have the board take it up at the next meeting.
Yes.
That's the best thing, yeah.
Yeah, have Gary
Yeah.
get his paperwork in so that there's no hiccup in the licensing.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. And asking the recommendation here for the board to declare property for disposal.
Mhm.
There's a number of items upstairs that just, some of it's very old furniture. Some of the furniture upstairs came from either the high school or the elementary school, and the Historical Society was using the lab tables,
Mhm.
and they have no interest in those
Okay.
tables. And I believe the folding tables as well, those were used by the Historical Society.
And nobody needs the blueprint cabinets? I'm surprised.
Well,
Or are they just not in good shape?
as far as we know, that belonged to the building inspector, but he does not, he says he doesn't need it. Right. Well, the cabinet he doesn't want, but the files he needs to determine whether he needs to keep them or he can dispose
You mean the
of them.
contents?
The contents.
Well, that's a different
The
discussion.
files that are
but
in
yeah,
there, there's.
Yeah, that's a different discussion, but, okay.
I thought they were empty.
They may be. So we're just talking about the cabinet.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, didn't we in the past put this out and we'd get, people would buy stuff?
Yeah, we can put it on municipal.
Okay.
We'll put it up and see what we get for bids.
I mean, these are not really
Yeah.
necessarily high ticket items, but
Yeah, there's not a lot of
Never know.
value there.
So that's what happens if we approve to put it to surplus property. You'll just go to, you'll take care of it. It'll be
Yeah,
gone.
so what we do is when there's town property, we'll ask departments if they're interested, can they use it for their operations? If there isn't any interest, then we prepare the list for the select board to declare
yeah, I mean,
a
it used to
surplus.
be, so it goes on to what?
It's called municipal bid. We used to do an auction.
I know, we
here at
used to do
town.
it, it was more local.
Yes,
Local people were buying things.
and we could do that, and then we could put it on municipal bid if we don't have any takers for these items. So yeah, I would suggest that we put it out there, folks in town, if they're interested in any of the
Could view
property.
and
Yeah.
give a little bid on it or something.
So as you know, the vehicles, there were 3 or 4 vehicles that we just put on municipal bid for, and we sold all 4 of them, right? Yeah.
I mean, vehicles are a little different,
Yeah,
but
we brought
know.
in several $1,000s, well, more than several, but,
okay.
yeah,
Whatever's really, I mean,
These
I don't want to
items-
create a bunch of extra work so that,
Mhm.
you know, we can put
Yeah.
things like old chalkboards and stuff out, but
yeah, people would be
I know it
responsible
used
for
to
picking
be
it up.
townspeople were buying this stuff before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to clear all the items on this list surplus.
A second.
That appropriate motion? Or do I have to name all the items on this list?
No, you don't have to do that. No, just as presented.
A motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh my goodness.
Okay. All right, so that completes all the items.
And so then
Yeah.
just down on topic 7.
Topic 7, so the town has received the EMS Fire Services Assessment study from MRI. We haven't had a meeting since, I don't think we've had a meeting since receiving this, or maybe we have. So this has become is a public document. It's in final form.
Right.
And we are set to have a public presentation on September 27th at the elementary school.
Will we be able to make this available so that
I was
people
gonna
can
put it
see it
on the
ahead of
town's-
time?
I was going to
Yeah,
put it on the town's website.
on the website and maybe even a social media post, even if it just directs
And
people to the
Facebook?
website.
Can we get that
Yeah,
on
that's
Facebook?
negative. It'd be difficult to put all of that on Facebook.
Yeah, you can't put
Oh,
it all on
okay.
Facebook, but just letting people know the report is here because people should be able to read it ahead
Letting
of
people know
time.
it's
It's too big.
available. Mhm.
You know, it's too big for people to just be seeing it for the first time that night.
Yeah.
Marlene, in the file, these 2 pay rate, we just sign them. We don't vote them, right?
For the fire department.
One's for the fire department and one is for the
Right.
town administrator,
Town administrator.
Ashton,
Oh, for the administrative
administrative
assistant.
assistant.
Yes.
So
Well,
we-
for Ashton, you do vote.
We vote, but
For the fire
for
department,
Bob's.
you don't need to vote. You can just sign those.
Okay. This is just a new per diem that Bob
Mhm.
has. So we'll sign this one.
Can I ask a question? Do we know what time on September 27th yet?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30?
Thank you.
But I would like, I think it'd be great for people to have time to.
Oh,
look at
yes,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
And
And then one last item is the second floor, town hall second floor. We have been talking about, use of the upstairs. And we also had been looking at the load capacity,
Mhm.
structural review. The engineer we're working with, he just cannot make the time for this study. And all we want to know is, if we were to use that for storage space, can the current structure handle filing
We
cabinets?
know that the current balcony is not at proper load capacity.
Correct.
So the
It's-
question was, can
What
the
would we
engineer
need to
give us
do?
a rafter layout
Yeah.
of what would have to be
What
done
do we need
in
to
order
do
to bring it
up
to capacity that's required by the code?
Right.
Can we find another
And we were
engineer?
looking at, so that's what we're doing.
Okay.
That's what we're doing. And I wanted to just let the board know that we are looking at another engineer and made it very clear that this can't wait another year.
You know,
Because we've
I know you
waited
could get a
year.
contractor in town that would come in and probably do a great job, but you need a stamp nowadays.
So we're
So
talking about leveling the floor up
Right.
there
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
And then, like to have the board to have a conversation about the improvements of electrical up there. Although Ed, you said that where the stove was,
Phil had
Tim Pachoric
Pachoric come in
Electric. looked at
because
it.
right now upstairs is at the old, where the electric stove was, there's like a 5-circuit panel.
Panel there.
And Pachoric feels that the existing panel would be enough of power for what's needed up there. So we would save on some expense. We just have to extend from that panel to whatever we decide that's going up there, which we still need to have a discussion on what we're going to do up there,
Right.
if we're going to do anything up
Mini
there,
splits,
or let it collect dust.
right. So we're talking about mini splits and a studio for
Right,
cable,
we were talking
cable TV.
a lot of different options of where. I mean,
Yeah.
right now in the small room, you can very easily shut 2 doors, and you could put, if the board wanted to, you could put the cable TV right in there for now, do nothing, and at a later date, actually divide the room up if you wanted to.
Mhm.
But that would secure all the equipment,
Mhm.
and without putting anything in there, the only thing that would be required would be some electrical.
Right.
So that would be a big savings, and you just have to put the splits in.
Right.
Because otherwise, if you go downstairs, there's 2 rooms. The 2 rooms
I
downstairs
was
would
gonna say, we've
require
considered other
a lot of
spaces.
work to be done to actually bring it up to a decent studio.
Mhm.
And the other place is buying here, but you have a balcony, you have 2 air handlers, and in order to build something in here, that would be another expense. So right now, one cheap and easy, quick way, in my mind, not saying I'm right, would, if you use the small room, do nothing in it, close it off with the 2 doors, John could use that space, and
It also
if
puts
we
the
decided
studio
to.
up on that floor where potentially there could be other meetings and stuff. That's a whole nother discussion.
That's a whole nother discussion for down the road. But the room's it's been all renovated. The floors are gorgeous up there. There's a bathroom now, there's an elevator, and there's always, like in this room tonight, look at all the room that's used up. If we had 20 people in here, it's just crowded.
Does need to be cleaned up there, all
That's
that
a great
dust
place
still from
for
the construction
larger
work.
meetings and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and the windows need to be.
Anyways,
cleaned.
but I'd like to see maybe our next meeting have a discussion on John. Where are we going to put John?
He's just been over there patiently waiting
know.
for years.
And he hasn't complained, but
Years, just
he'd
over there
like to-
doing his job.
he'd like to have a space where he can actually put all his equipment.
Yeah.
You still have, under the cable TV contract that was approved, you still have to move
Mhm.
system from the high school down here. That has to be determined.
That's
I mean,
right.
he's still got equipment up there he hasn't moved because he's got a closet with no room to put it in. So, I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm just hoping maybe next meeting, let's finally have a discussion on what we're going to do, or what we'd like to do, or what we can do, or what we're not going to do at all. How's that sound?
That's the one we usually have. So We do have to take a motion or take a vote on.
The new administrative assistant.
We have a new administrative assistant after Gerard left, so we do need to take a vote to hire and set Ashton Weagle's salary, right?
I'll make a motion that we hire and accept Ashton Weagle's.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 When is he starting?
He did start.
Oh, he did start. Great. Okay,
He
well, I'll make
started
sure I come
August
down
1st.
this week and meet him. Is that it, Marlene?
That's all I
It's a long
have.
one.
Yeah, that's it.
Karen, thank you. Bob, thank you. John, thank you. Marlene, of course.
Thank you.
Take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Whew.